have a quarterly financial report. That's good.
That's me. Okay. So in your packets, there was some highlights. This is all as of December 31st. We had highlights on the general fund. 57% of our revenues have come in so far this year, 52% of our expenditures out the door. That does include the 2 fire trucks that were just purchased, and I wanted to talk about that for just a minute. The 2 fire trucks totaled $598,642, including their equipment and upgrades and all of that. And then there's also about $229,000 in annual insurance premiums that we pay up front, so that always makes our expenditures a little more inflated up front than what just a regular average month would be. With the fire trucks, that of course was offset by the COVID relief money that the state of Tennessee sent us, which we'll go into a little bit more when I get into the grant section. But about $159,000 of that was paid by COVID relief funds. And then we financed the rest of that on a note. You all remember putting the money for that in there. Property taxes collected to date, we're right at 37%, which is pretty comparable with last year at the same time. Last year it was 38.5%, so less than a 1% difference last year at the same time, so it looks like that's pretty average. That's negligible, so I'm not worried about that. They have until the end of February to pay those. Sales tax collections, I wanted to talk about a little bit. Right now, our sales tax is coming in higher than it did in 2019, and that was after we had already started, the state had passed the legislation so that we would collect sales tax on online sales, which thank God they did that since so many sales were done online in 2020. But our sales tax collections are actually about $200,000 more for December 31st, 2020 than they were December 31st, 2019. I don't really know what the difference is, other than I do think because of the pandemic that more people shopped locally and they bought things in town instead of driving to Knoxville or Chattanooga and spending their money there, so I think that's part of it. I got a little curious, so I did a chart on sales tax as of December 31st. So this is not numbers that we've looked at before as a board. If you'll check out that chart, you can see the $200,000 difference between 2019 and 2020 in those numbers, but also just the general incline over the past few years. We passed the sales tax increase. We capped out our sales tax in 2011, so I didn't want to go back any further than that because that was skewing the numbers unfairly. But 2012 to 2020, this is our sales tax growth. Since we have some property owners here tonight, I'll reiterate that we are always happy when sales tax grows because it's not on the backs of property taxes. It's a more fair tax, it's more equitable. It means that the travelers who happen to come through and only get gas and eat out, and then they drive on our streets and use our street lighting, they still have to contribute in some way. So we're always happy to see sales tax growth. 3 years ago, for the first time, Sweetwater's sales tax was its highest revenue number. So we're really glad we're continuing that trend. It's still pulling in a lot more money than property taxes is. When I went to a conference 2 years ago with the comptroller's office, they made a point of talking about the cities that had reliance more on sales tax than on property tax. They tended to do better during recession times. So that's also another positive to making sure we're doing shop local campaigns and encouraging shop local, and that our citizens are aware and educated about how sales tax helps pay for schools and city governments and all that without us having to raise property taxes. I wanted to talk for just a minute about the grants that we have right now. Before I go there, State Street Aid is the only place, and Buster, I wanted to point this out for you. We have only 5 months of revenue right now for State Street Aid as of December 31st posted. It's trending just slightly below what the budget estimate is, about $6,000, which would be about $12,000 for the year. We had projected $227,000 from gas tax, and it's come in at $221,500. So it's a little bit shy, nothing that's really going to blow your budget or anything, but State Street Aid tax and gasoline tax is one of those taxes that is divided out per capita from the state. So it's based on our population and our census numbers. So it's not that people bought less gas in Sweetwater, it's that people bought less gas in Tennessee. So there's not really a lot we can do about that, but I just did want to point it out that that's one thing State Street Aid might have to deal with at the end of the budget year. Of course, you've got a healthy fund balance in State Street Aid, so even if you continue spending exactly like the budget says, you won't eat away at that fund balance, but it is coming in just a little bit less. And the only thing I can figure is that people are spending less on gas across the state, so that number's going down.
They're not driving as much.
Right. Traveling season was stifled, so. Tourism fund, we had budgeted only to receive $30,000 in total revenue for the year, and we've already received that. So we thought that the tourism fund was going to totally tank because of the COVID pandemic whenever we were setting the budget last spring, and it really hasn't. It's definitely decreased. I had to report today to the Nine Lakes Tourism Association what our tourism amount had gone down. It's 50% less in 2020 than it was in 2019, which is significant, but it was 50% less between March and June. Between July and December, it was only 8% less. So I do feel like those hotel motel tax revenues have recovered quickly, and hopefully they'll continue to do so. It looked like this month was almost on par with what last month was, which January is not a very big travel month, so that's a hard month to compare it to, but I do think that recovery on the hotel motel tax has been pretty quick, and it's not gonna hurt our budget because we have underspent our expenditures and we've gotten more in revenue than what we had anticipated at this point, so that budget's gonna be fine. So on the grants, I did a graph, and it's in your packet also. That graph is showing you the different projects that the grants have gone for. Obviously, the number one is about $1.6 million in sidewalks and trails. And the biggest part of that was the High Street sidewalk grant that was just completed last year. That sidewalk was about a $730,000 project, including the paving on Anderson and High Street with it. We've put in applications for more grants, and that's kind of pushing that number up even higher once those are hopefully awarded. The next biggest player are playgrounds and parks, the renovation at Engelman Park, adding the splash pad, all of those things. We've put quite a bit of money in grant funding into parks and playgrounds, about $1.2 million in the last few years. The COVID relief money's on there. That was money we got from the federal government and the state, which I already talked about a little bit, that we used most of that for the fire truck purchase. To date, we've gotten $247,518 in COVID relief funds. Part of that is still restricted and reserved for, it's all reserved for police and fire basically. But we'll be talking more about that probably next month and how that's going to be divvied up and exactly what it's going to be spent on. We did have some street paving grants that were pretty significant. Of course, our Main Street program, we've gotten over $400,000 in grant funding that we would not have been eligible for had we not been a Main Street district. And that's only been in 5 or 6 years. So we're over $400,000 that was Main Street funding because we are a nationally recognized Main Street, which Chuck and Haley and myself and Ashley, we're all working on that recertification now. So hopefully by the end of the month, we'll be recertified again as a national Main Street. The tourism facility grants, obviously we built the depot with the bathrooms and got some grant funding. Well, that was paid for with grant funding. But there's quite a bit of variety when you look at it in the grants. I think sometimes we feel like it's only on sidewalks or only on paving, but we really do get quite a bit of grant money to spend in other areas. And of course, most of those projects are things that we would not have been able to do had we not gotten the grant funding for it. So right now you can look at your grant overview, paperwork. I did a chart that showed you, or a form that showed you since 2008, so in the last 10 years. We've had $6.6 million in grant funding, which is a whole year's revenue. Like basically, we paid one whole year of revenue just from the grant applications that we're doing. And we don't have a professional grant writer on staff, so this is just the existing staff doing things to try and go after grants. And that's around 35 grants. So that's not, some of those grants are $3,500, but they still require the paperwork and the work for it. And then some of them are $900,000, but there's 2 listed on there, and if you'll look in your packet, they're highlighted. Those 2 highlighted grants are ones that have not been awarded, so I'm not including those in those totals. But just so you know, we have 2 applications out. One is a FEMA fire equipment grant for $26,500 that we haven't heard about yet. And one is the second phase of the multimodal grant, which we've already been awarded the first phase, which will take a sidewalk from Monroe Street out to about where the Fred's building was. And then the second phase would take it from the Fred's building and loop it back around to High Street. So that way we'd have one continuous loop that went the whole way through town. That second grant has not yet been awarded, but we should hear about that in February. I do think we put together a solid application, so I'm hoping that that one gets funded, because those multimodal grants only have a 5% match. So basically, we'll be able to build a $1 million sidewalk for a $50,000 match. So those are the ones we like to go after. So all of those grants are listed. Every grant that we've had since 2008 is in your packet. Sales tax chart, grant. 2008. Those are all the grants since 2008. So 10 years, well, actually 12 years now, but. And then I've got a separate listing that shows everything that we are currently juggling, which is a little over $3 million in grant funding. So a lot of those grants took years of building up those relationships to be able to get them, but they've obviously helped float our budget. We've had one property tax increase in 10 years, and hopefully we'll be able to go another 8 to 10 years without having another property tax increase, because our sales tax is kind of floating the boat on that. So we're in really good shape for the budget right now. Pretty much everything is less than where we would have expected to be on expenditures right now, and our revenues are slightly more than what we had estimated them to be. So that's always the right position to be in as far as budgeting goes. And of course, I got my notice from the state today about next year's budget, so I'll start working on that. You all have to pass it by April 1st, but we'll put some stuff together and see what comes together on that. I don't anticipate any need for any kind of tax increases next year. I think it's going well, and despite the fear that we had when we were putting together the budget for this year, I think it's gone much better than expected. So financially, I'm very pleased.
All right, thank you, Jessica. Any questions or comments? As always, Jessica does a good job, and I don't know why we need a professional grant writer when we've got you. So, a little raise would help out, wouldn't it? Thank you, Jessica. Next, we will open the floor for discussion by the board and department heads on capital improvement items that we have talked about. If you need a little bit more time, we'll have more time on that. Does anything come up right now that you want to talk about?
If this would be a time for it, I'll say. If not, just let me know. But we've been looking at our capital improvement plan for the police department. I've talked to Commissioner Stockton. We've been working closely on this, and talked to Jessica, Mayor, about updating our body camera systems that we have at the police department. We, as everybody knows, with this board and with the mayor, the police department, we try to stay ahead of the curve. We don't want to be reacting to stuff. We want to be proactive. We were one of the first departments in the state of Tennessee to have body cams on for our officers. And we started out with 4, and we just rotate them as everybody come in and buy computers and go that route. And we've been doing some research and looking, and Axion is a company that we purchase our tasers from, as well as they've taken over basically the body cam company. Knoxville's gone to them, Maryville, Alcoa, a lot of the cities now, everybody's getting on to body cameras with just everything nationally and everything going on. Well, I have a proposal from them that I was able to collect, and for us to get 20 body cameras, that way every officer in the city would have a body camera. They've got a 5-year program that we would qualify for, and I need to get Jess to look at the numbers for me and everything, but roughly for the first year, for 20 body cameras plus unlimited evidence.com. And how this new system works, right? The officer would go into the scene, wherever it is, his camera would be recording, and when he came back to a certain radius of the police department, whatever it's set up at, it would automatically download that evidence into the cloud. And they would have control of our evidence, which is a good thing, because there wouldn't be any misses between us and them on getting it downloaded or anything to automatically download. And then if we go to a court case about it, we can just give the district attorney, or we can give the defense attorney a code, and they go right into evidence.com and they pull it up on their computers. They're sitting there, and we don't have to burn a disc for them. But if they still, like I like stuff, I still use paper a lot, about on everything. But if they still want a disc, we have the access to log in ourselves beforehand and to burn a disk off on it. And this system would give unlimited access to that. Every camera would be unlimited, as much data as we wanted. And how their program's set up, you get the 20 cameras, you get the unlimited usage of it, the unlimited storage, you get two brackets for it, and after 2.5 years, you get 20 brand new cameras. And then after 5 years, that's what we'd be looking at, a 5-year program, you get another set of brand new cameras, 20 cameras, and you get the most up to date that they have at that time. And then at the end of 5 years, we'd have the choice, the city would, to sign in for another term or to just exit and download everything we had onto a large server. And I'd like for the city to look at. I think it'd be a great opportunity for us. What it would allow us to do, as well as the warranty, these things that we're getting from them, the camera systems we're getting, they said if you run over them with the car, if you drop them in a manhole and break them or anything like that, they'll automatically replace it. So it's covered with warranty. The ones we have now, we don't have a warranty on them. They quit manufacturing a lot of them, so we just have to go buy new, and we don't have all the same body cameras, and we've actually got them on 2 different servers at PD. Some of them we have to download on one server and some on the other. And this would allow us to take the ones that we have now and to put into our school system, and therefore all the guys in the school would have cameras on them as well, and they'd still be able to use the server that we have for them, and it'd never fill up. Now the main thing is of course that everybody's interested in is, we've talked about the warranty and we've talked about the terms and all that, is the finance of it. The way it's set up for the first year, it'd be approximately $42,000 for us to pay to get the program, the equipment, the cameras, and everything. We'd be starting set up. That includes them coming and training us and giving us training on how to use it. They'll come and give us training on how for the courts to use it, and that whole end of it. And then after that, it would be $21,500, I think, a year, and that would include everything. And then in 2.5 years, we'd get all new cameras. We'd turn those in, and then in 5 years, we would get the last set of cameras. And if everything's working as well as I hope it is, we'd be able to go into them now. And I had money put in the capital improvement program for computer upgrades already. I didn't have that much, obviously, but I had money put in there. I think it's like $8,000 or $9,000, and we wouldn't have to use that then, because that's what we're trying to use the server and upgrade the server to keep it up, because it's nobody's fault. It's just one of those things. With court being off the way it is right now, we're having to hold evidence for so much longer that it's actually kind of harder on us, to keep adding storage and go that route. I'd like for everybody to be aware of it and, kind of get feedback. And if you've got any questions, I'd be glad to try to get with you. And
if I can throw a couple things in, right now we have around $17,000 budgeted per year for cameras.
yes,
Like Eddie said, 9,000 of that is computers, storage, so this would eliminate the need for that and have a new camera. But the 8,000 that we have budgeted for cameras every year, we've pretty much been spending that on repairs, because we don't have a maintenance agreement, we don't have a warranty, and I think every time we call them, it's $420.
yes.
Just to come.
On
On the body cameras,
On the
the
one he's
current
paying
ones,
now,
yeah.
so really that's $17,000 a year in the budget that we wouldn't have to rebudget.
And I'm glad you explained that, because it's not, I don't want you to think, we're not going out and spending an additional $21,000 or $22,000, because we're already spending money to do that we wouldn't have to be using.
The storage is a big deal too, because we only store them for so many, I'm not gonna say how many, but so
Yeah.
many days right now. So this is unlimited
Well, we're
storage,
having to
so,
buy more storage as we speak,
yeah.
because we're having
If we
to
have something from a year ago that we have an insurance claim on or a lawsuit on that we need to go back and look at a body cam, it's iffy whether we're gonna have it or not, because sometimes you can't tell what's gonna be a problem later. Something comes up that seems small, and so you don't necessarily download it, and then it ends up being an issue. But the other thing I want to say is I think that the excess money that we applied for, that we got awarded for COVID from the state, we had to list items, and we did put security in there. So I feel like those cameras could be paid for with that COVID money. And we still have, you all were gonna send 2 people apiece to Academy on that money, and we ended up only sending 1 each. So I think you still have around $72,000 of that COVID money that's restricted just for police and fire. So that might be a good option with the cameras to use part of that there, at least for that first year payment, since it's bigger.
That would be the way to go.
Well, it wouldn't be a burden on the taxpayers or anybody there. I mean, it would be,
Well, your first initial cost of $40,000 is the one
You'd
time.
cover that, yeah.
So after you get that done, get the training
Yeah.
and y'all, everything set up, you know, you're not looking at that much money a year.
I know the cameras have saved us a lot, Mayor. They've helped us a whole lot, you know what I'm saying? Just,
Well, and Eddie can talk more about this, but there are a lot of times when somebody calls to complain about something, and then once they realize we have body cam footage, that call magically goes away. So,
yes, I mean,
I'm not, from the person that has to file the insurance claims, I'm a big fan of body cams.
Okay. Take that into consideration and add it to it.
and it's something we don't have to bid out, guys. I forgot to bring it up. They're a sole proprietor of it, and they have the state bid on it.
I think that's the way to go with the grant on that.
I mean, we have to spend it before June, so.
Okay, it looks like we can solve that problem right now, Eddie.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more discussion about the improvements? Okay, we'll put this on the February agenda. Do we need to,
We can pass it in the February agenda if you all are ready and don't have any other changes for the capital improvement plan. It does not have to be passed until March. So you still have another month on it if you want to just table it and talk about it more and then pass it in March. And then we'll present the actual one-year budget on April 1st. So you still have another month on this if you have anything else that needs to be
you
changed.
want to wait till March or you want to bring this up? Is it necessary to get these right away or?
And again, I'm not pushing anything, but I think the sooner be better, you know.
So we'll put that down for February and see if they.
I mean, if the board's comfortable with that, I mean, it's,
You know, we need to get it while we got this grant money.
that's, I mean, why it's available and why they're willing to do it.
Okay, we'll add that in February. How long will it take to get these actually ordered?
Shouldn't take very long.
Okay. What, are you going to give like SRO officers and these other body cameras?
Yes, they'll be getting the other ones. And there's been a few things happen that I wish they had them now. It's just we've not done it because of A1 storage space and not having the $480 cameras. But this will allow us to take these that we've got, and we'll have a log of them that we can keep, and they can keep them at school and put them on, and then download them daily as we need to download them to serve.
All right. On our February regular meeting agenda, we will have minutes and distributions. We will have a request to host a 5K from Callie and Craig Brackett in honor of the fire and rescue personnel with the 20th anniversary of September the 11th. Our library will be giving an annual report to the board, and we will have bids to open on police vehicles from the already budget fund. Those have already been budgeted. We have some hiring confirmations and an amendment to coincide with adding the litter control employee. We will have first reading on the rezoning of the property at interstate to industrial. This is from Red Stag Fulfillment. I want to thank the commissioners for being here last Monday night to the planning commission meeting. We all got to hear from the CEO that's putting this together, and things I've talked to him 2 or 3 times this week, and things are moving rapidly, and it looks like to me they've got surveyors as of Friday out there everywhere, and they've got the final paper signed from Mrs. Montooth. They were waiting on ex-Mrs. Montooth, and they did get that signed and got the details worked out on that. So that's good news. Chuck, you got anything else to add?
No, just everybody was at the planning commission meeting, all the commissioners. You heard kind of my spiel at that point as far as what property, we're talking about. It is coming to you all as a recommendation from the planning commission to rezone the property from, A1, which is agricultural, to M1. I've put in your all's packet basically what the M1 zoning is and what it allows. It would allow for a fulfillment distribution center, as they are proposing to use the property for. Just an update, since the planning commission, talked with Jordan, the CEO, about 2 or 3 times over the course of the past week. He has been meeting with, has a meeting set up with TDOT, actually has already had one, and he's planning on having some others regarding a traffic study for the entrance off of Oakland Road to make sure that we do that safely. So that's, he said that meeting went very well, and he feels like they can get something worked out that's gonna be good for everybody. And safe for people getting in and out, and the trucks getting in and out. I know that was a concern of mine, it was a concern of some others too. Also, they have had, soil scientists and surveyors on site. They've had discussions with the utilities board, which has gone very well. And so, sort of the next step, just so y'all are aware, you all will be considering the rezoning. During that process, we're gonna be looking at some site plan, issues that we'll be bringing back to the, planning commission at the February meeting. But Jordan did say he would be available for, the February 1st Monday night's meeting and anytime in between if anybody has any questions.
Okay. I think we're all pretty well aware of what's going on out there, and it seems like everybody's enthused about it. I want to invite the board members. I called a meeting for Friday at 9 o'clock this coming Friday. There will be representatives here from TDOT, maybe the governor's office, Blackburn's office, as well as probably Flashman's office. I wanted to be transparent and make sure they knew what was going on here in the city of Sweetwater. All the municipality governors, mayors will be here, and it's just going to be a sort of an answer of questions if anybody has any of what's taking place here, because this is a big project, and I think it would pay us to be up front, so if we need to ask these people for anything that's going to be here, they're going to know about it. Be about 35 or 40 people here. We will have a light, donuts, coffee, just something, that we can relax with. Jordan will be on Zoom. He's going to be out of town that day, and he will be answering questions if we have any. And especially the people that's representing different entities. And everybody here again that we have talked to, and some of the phone calls that I have had from different state and our county officials are really pleased with this. So you are welcome to attend 9 o'clock Friday if you can be here. And if you can't be here, give Jessica a head count so we won't order too many sausage and biscuits and things like that. Finally, if everyone is comfortable with the capital improvement plan, then we will discuss it further in February and take action on it probably in March. And so far, I think we've got everything pretty well took care of it. So that's good. All right. Anything else come before the board? Well, thank you for being here. Thank our visitors from Willow Creek for being here. Like I said before, we missed you. So nothing